Welcome to Wildly Capable with Kate, a podcast made for those looking to unleash their wildest capabilities. I'm your host, Kate DeRocher, a dating, relationship, and self-worth coach on a mission to help people build better relationships, starting with the one they have with themselves. In each episode, we'll dig deep, turn inwards, and embark on a transformative journey. Together, we'll break free from unhealthy patterns, rip through self-limiting beliefs, heal past wounds, and build unwavering self-worth, all to create healthier relationships as a result. Get ready to explore the wild, untapped potential within you. Are you ready to see just how wildly capable you are? Subscribe now and join us on this empowering adventure. Remember, your wildest capabilities await. Today, I want to take you all on a journey to understanding how childhood experiences impact our adult relationships. Hi, everyone. I'm Kate, and this is Wildly Capable with Kate. Thank you so much for tuning in. This episode, like every other, is going to be pretty in-depth, so you may want to listen to it a couple times or take notes to fully understand the information I'm sharing. Please also know that some topics in this episode can get a little heavy, so listen safely and take breaks when needed. The last thing this podcast is meant to do is to cause triggers or harm for anyone listening, so please let this serve as my gentle warning. With that out of the way, before we dive into the depth of this subject, let's set the stage first. As you likely know, early interactions with our caregivers form the bedrock of our emotional development. That foundation then influences how we connect with others later in life, in adulthood. In this episode, I want to unravel the complex threads of attachment styles, emotional availability, vulnerability, and other psychological factors that are often heavily impacted by our childhood relationships and that affect our adult relationships down the line. To begin, let's explore attachment styles. Our experiences with caregivers during our formative years mold our emotional framework, resulting in either secure or insecure attachment styles. Secure attachment tends to foster healthier adult relationships, while insecure attachment can pose challenges to building healthy connections. Research underlines the importance of understanding these attachment styles in deciphering the dynamics of our adult connections. I'll do future episodes that break down attachment theory and attachment styles even further because if you've been following me, you know I am so fascinated by them and they're really in depth. But for today, let me just quickly define the different attachment styles that can form within a person as a result of their early childhood experiences. So there are 4 different styles of attachment that have been discovered and studied. And each of these styles are mainly created by the relationships we do or maybe don't have with our childhood caregivers. These attachment styles are, number 1, secure attachment. Individuals with a secure attachment style feel comfortable both being close to others and having independence. They're generally able to trust, to openly express emotions, and to maintain healthy relationships. A secure attachment style is often the result of consistent and responsive caregiving. Caregivers who are emotionally available and attuned to the child's needs. They provide a secure base for exploration, and they contribute to the development of a secure attachment. These caregivers respond quickly and kindly when a child is upset, providing comfort and creating a sense of safety and trust. Number 2 is anxious attachment. People with an anxious attachment style often fear rejection and abandonment. They may seek excessive reassurance and approval, and they tend to be preoccupied with the availability and responsiveness of their partners. Anxiously attached individuals may worry about the stability of their relationship, and they worry about it often. They show extremely heightened emotional responses, and they have a constant need for validation and closeness. An anxious style may develop when caregivers are inconsistently responsive to the child's needs. Sometimes they're there, either physically or emotionally for the child, and sometimes they're not. If caregivers are sometimes attuned to the child's emotions, but are not consistently available or responsive, the child can develop anxiety about whether their needs will be met or not. This inconsistency can lead to a heightened sensitivity to perceived threats of rejection or abandonment in the relationship. Number 3 is avoidant attachment. Individuals with an avoidant attachment style are often uncomfortable with emotional intimacy and majorly prioritize independence, like to the extreme. They may downplay the importance of close relationships, acting like they don't need them, and they often avoid emotional vulnerability, closeness, or commitment. They're emotionally unavailable themselves. These people may struggle with getting close to others. They feel uncomfortable with emotions, and they really prioritize their own self reliance, their own independence. They might appear emotionally distant or detached in relationships. And avoidant attachment often results from caregivers who are emotionally distant or completely unresponsive. These caregivers may downplay the importance of emotional expression or prioritize independence over emotional connection themselves. Children raised in these environments often learn to suppress their own emotional needs and developed a self reliant stance, avoiding close emotional bonds as a way to protect themselves because they've hurt them in the past. And the fourth attachment style is disorganized attachment. Disorganized attachment is pretty much what it sounds like. It is characterized by a combination of both anxious and avoidant behaviors. Individuals with a disorganized attachment style may experience internal conflicts, and these internal conflicts lead to unpredictable and sometimes contradictory actions in their relationships. They kind of flip flop between being anxious and being avoidant. They're disorganized. People with disorganized attachment also exhibit erratic behavior sometimes. They struggle with self regulation and they face challenges in forming consistent and stable relationships overall. This attachment style is often associated with early childhood trauma or really inconsistent caregiving. These attachment styles are not fixed and they can be healed and they can also be influenced by various factors, including experiences in relationships and personal growth. But understanding your attachment style can offer some amazing insights into your own relational patterns, and they can help you heal difficulties within yourself and within your relationships. As you can see, the attachment we form with our earliest caregivers greatly impacts how we behave towards people in our adult relationships. If you let the limiting and hurtful traits of your attachment style, namely if you identify with anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, if you let those traits run the show in your adult partnerships or even friendships, you may find yourself in some really challenging relationships. For example, people with an anxious attachment style can become too clingy and dependent on their partner. Having needs is normal and good, but people with an anxious style, they can't do anything really for themselves. They really depend on the other person. Or they can find themselves completely thrown off and suffering when they're rejected, or if their partner is unavailable, or if it just feels like they're unavailable, if it just feels like something is shifting within the relationship. For years, I identified with having an anxious attachment style myself. And if the person I was dating, or even sometimes my friends, weren't responsive, if they weren't texting or calling me back, or if when they were responsive, it felt like their tone was off, I would freak out. I would get really scared because I was raised in an environment where sometimes my caregiver was there and sometimes they either weren't there or they weren't able to handle my emotions in a healthy, safe way. And so now I've learned to constantly be on the lookout for signs that somebody is upset with me or signs that something is wrong. So that's kind of what an anxious attachment style looks like as an adult. I become very worried about my relationships. Luckily, I've healed it a ton and you can too, but that's a little bit more on what anxious attachment style looks like. People with an avoidant attachment style, on the other hand, they kind of do the opposite. They may push others away, they become extremely distant, or they don't know how to care for their loved one's needs. Those behaviors are the result of wounds that we experience in our childhoods, which will continue to show up in our future relationships until we address them, until we heal them. If any of the traits I mentioned sound like how you act in your own relationships, you guys, I highly encourage you to read the book Attached. Actually, let me grab it right now. Hang on. Just kidding. I don't have it because I have loaned it out to so many people. So somebody probably is reading it from me right now. But it's a great book. Attached is all about attachment styles. I'll include a link to the book in the show's description, but it will really help you study and make sense of what your own attachment style may be. And it will help you move towards having a more secure attachment style. And with that, to move towards having a more secure style, you will have to identify any anxious, avoidant, or disorganized traits that are within you, and then begin healing exercises to release and move on from those harmful behaviors. There are so many things that you can do, so many things I've done in my own life. And if you want someone to guide you through how to heal your attachment style and become more secure and healthy in your relationships, then DM me. DM me the word capable at Coach Kate DeRozier on Instagram or TikTok, and we can explore working together one-on-one, and I'll walk you through exactly what I did. Now, outside of our attachment styles, our childhood experiences and relationships with our earliest caregivers can affect our adult relationships in so many other ways too. Here are other ways in which early experiences may shape our relationships. Up first, let's chat communication patterns. The way we communicate in our adult relationships is often influenced by the communication patterns we observed in our families during our childhood. Children who grew up in households with open and effective and easy communication are likely to carry those skills into their adult relationships too, making communication easier for them. On the flip side, those who witness conflict, avoidance, stonewalling, the silent treatment, or just ineffective communication patterns overall may struggle with expressing themselves or resolving conflicts well as adults. Next up is trust issues. Early experiences with caregivers shape our ability to trust others. Bottom line. Consistent care and reliability contribute to the development of a secure foundation of trust within us. But individuals who experience betrayal, inconsistency, or broken trust in childhood, they often struggle with trust in their adult relationships, rightfully so. This can manifest as difficulty relying on others or fears of vulnerability. Or if you do rely on somebody, you're constantly thinking that they're going to do something to hurt you. Another way our childhood experiences influence our adult relationships is with our conflict resolution skills and styles. The way we navigate and handle issues is often learned from observing how our caregivers walked through conflict with one another. In my own life, I grew up with parents who resolved conflict through either intense bouts of yelling or fighting, or with complete avoidance. They didn't address the issue at all. Thanks to witnessing these styles so often as I was growing up, I had to do a lot of work to not allow those same patterns to show up in my own adult relationships. And honestly, for years, I thought yelling in an argument was the norm. I thought that it was okay. I thought that that's what you were supposed to do. This was so ingrained in me as a kid that if I wasn't fighting with my boyfriend, I'd think something was wrong, that he didn't like me, that something was off in the relationship. And it took me years to realize there are healthier, better, far better ways of handling conflict, and that conflict resolution is a skill like any other. Luckily, with time and work, I learned to communicate when I was upset in calmer, more effective ways, and I got more comfortable with quiet and peace in my own relationships. As you can see, the way we handle conflict is a big one. Our intimacy and ability to express emotions are also influenced by our childhood experiences. If you grew up in a warm, nurturing environment, emotional openness likely comes easier for you, easier than someone who was raised in an emotionally reserved or stifled environment. People with those types of upbringings can really struggle with vulnerability and intimacy and openness because healthy examples of those things were never modeled to them during the years that they were learning and developing most. In my own family, for example, I never really saw them hugging each other, never really saw them being emotionally open or showing gratitude or being vulnerable or encouraging each other. So when I became an adult, you know, expressing my feelings and expressing gratitude or being able to encourage other people did not come naturally for me. I would feel weird even just complimenting somebody or hugging somebody because I grew up in an environment that was so stifled emotionally. Just like I learned how to handle conflict better, I also learned how to be more open and vulnerable throughout my years. And now I'm a coach who constantly is encouraging people and constantly expressing feelings towards people and handling their feelings too. So, all of these things that I'm talking about, they can be healed and they can be developed, but it's great to understand them so you can even know what needs to be healed or developed. Other ways that our childhoods may affect our adult relationships can be seen in so many things. It can be seen in our beliefs around roles and gender dynamics in relationships. It can be seen in our approach to parenting. It can be seen in our mindsets around how finances should be handled. Who you are and how you behave and show up in your adult relationships can often be widely impacted by your childhood experiences and the relationship you had with your caregivers, as you can see. And while some of the results of those experiences may feel challenging to overcome, I want anyone listening to know that awareness is the catalyst for change. Recognizing the impact of your childhood experiences on your adult relationships will empower you to break negative patterns and create healthier connections once you do so. Working with a professional, listening to podcasts like this, reading books like Attached, and not shying away from self reflection are all powerful tools in your journey to healing your childhood wounds. So, you guys, anybody listening to this, please be bold in exploring and understanding the root causes of certain behaviors that you may currently have in your adult relationships. Be bold so you can ultimately pave the way for more positive and satisfying partnerships in your own life. Remember that it's never too late to reflect, to learn, and to strive for healthier connections. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Wildly Capable with Kate. I hope it helps you better understand how our childhoods affect our adult relationships. And if you found today's exploration valuable, please don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with your friends. Until next time, I'm Kate, and this is Wildly Capable with Kate. See you guys soon.